All right. Good morning, Professor. How are you today?
I guess I might be the only one here.
Yeah, awesome. You
All
get to
right.
have a full webinar just to you.
I guess so, huh? Thanks for doing this. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know anything about responders? Since you're the only one here, I'll just ask you directly if you know anything about it, and then we could probably just answer questions.
Sure. The only thing I know is that it's something that students can download that they use to be able to take exams or quizzes online, but it locks everything else out so they can't use anything else. And that's kind of all I have of an
Okay.
idea. And but it sounds like it's probably going to be useful for what I need it for. So.
Oh, fantastic. And what course are you teaching, or what course are you planning on using it for?
I have two courses right now. So I'm from the Department of Kinesiology. I'm faculty over there, and
Okay.
I have a measurement statistics course that I'm teaching over there. So that's
Okay.
Kin 370, and I'm teaching a exercise prescription class. So a prescription of exercise, and that's a Kin 483. And for both of those, I'm planning to use this for how I administer the testing.
Okay. I don't want you to feel like you're talking to an empty, you
No
know,
problem. Thanks.
room. So,
No problem.
okay, good. For statistics, do you are you also thinking about do students have to do manual work, meaning pen and paper, or use a particular software to run their statistics? You know, like SPSS, or do they need to go to Excel, etc., or something?
Um, for class activities, yeah, we do use SPSS.
Okay.
But I guess when we transferred over to all this online stuff, I don't do, I'm not going to test them on some of the SPSS stuff. So it's not
Okay.
going to be part of the testing.
Okay. Good. Yeah, the reason why I asked is because obviously with Responder, since it's going to lock everything for the students, and they're only going to have access to the exam. That's why I wanted to make sure,
Mm.
you know, because they're going to be able to log in into the Blackboard, you know, go to their course, do their, you know, find your course, find the test, and start the test. But once it starts, it locks everything out. So it's not like they could say, oh, let me open up another, you know, the SPSS page or something like that, you know, to run some statistics or analyses and stuff like that. It's just going to be pretty much everything that they will do will have to be hosted within that test. Otherwise, Responders is not going to let them open anything else.
That's okay, and that's kind of the impression I was under. And I guess maybe this would help too when I do some of the online testing, because I've done on like virtual or online testing before.
Uh-huh.
And my goal when I do that is to try to simulate a testing center environment.
Okay.
So like when these students go out to take a certification exam or a
Hmm.
board exam or something, where they go to like um,
A test center, you
a
know, in
test
front of the
center
computer,
where,
they sit there, they put the clock for 4 hours, and it's like, go ahead and do it.
yeah, and that's what I'm trying to simulate for them. So they practice that kind of scenario. So when they do take their certification exams, they have an idea of that environment and
Hmm.
that they've been practicing it. So that's okay that I
Okay,
do want to simulate that where everything else is locked out except for just that.
perfect. All right. So wonderful. So let me just show you then how it works. And again, because you're the only one here, just stop me at any time. You know, sort of be like, Mauricio, what is this? What about, you know, any questions and anything? And that
Okay.
would be fantastic. So
Okay.
this is what we're gonna do. You know, just what is Respondus, the difference between the browser and the monitor, how it integrates with Blackboard, how it relates to, you know, tests, actually deploying the tests, etc. And then some of the settings with, actually all of the settings with regards to the browser and the monitor. And just real quick, the browser is what it is. It's just a browser, just like Safari, like, you know, Chrome or Internet Explorer, etc. It's an actual browser. The monitor is the webcam component, which is going to be, you know, recording the student throughout their whole test and going through a couple of like test requirements at the beginning for audio and webcam and stuff like that. So we'll take a look at that in case that you wanted to use it. You can use Responder's browser without the monitor. You cannot use the monitor without the browser. Right, so the monitor is like an added security component of the webcam. And then we'll take a look at the reports. That's probably going to be, you know, one of the most helpful parts, you know, for you to be able to determine, you know, if, and again, the reports only work for monitor because it's going to be a webcam. And so the reports, you'll see what it is, you know, is going to tell you a couple of things with regards to students' facial identification and stuff like that. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Um, Quick question. Do you know, and I know, and I had to ask this question to everybody because we just moved to this whole, you know, fully online in such a hurry. But Responders Lockdown Browser Monitor is not going to work on Chromebooks. And so to think about that, it does work, but it only works if the Chromebooks were sort of like loaned through the university, and then we put Lockdown Browser on our Chromebook and loaned it to the student. You know, because the Chromebooks need to be in what is called the kiosk mode. which is the only way that students wouldn't have access to anything else in the settings. But Respondus Lockdown Browser or Monitor does work on iPad. And so if you get a student, that emails you and say, hey, professor, I don't have a laptop, I don't have a desktop, my phone is really just not that good, but I do have an iPad, can I still take the test? So yes, they can still take the test on the iPad. I'll walk you through very quick settings, for you to be able to tell the students, sort of like what those things are for them to know what to do. But the browser and the monitor, they're not going to work on phones, on any phones, Plus, of course, as best practices, we often, tell students to try to avoid taking courses online using their mobile phones, sort of thing. But you just never know. These are different times, right, in which we cannot tell the students, go buy yourself a computer just so that you can take a test.
Sure.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So Respondus, as a faculty, you don't have to download anything, because Respondus is it's a software that is installed in the back end of Blackboard. It's sort of like creating like installing an alarm to your front door, or a keypad to your front door. So you don't have to do anything with regards to having to download the browser to access them, like other software. Students do, however, have to download their browser. For them, it is an actual application, like an actual program, an actual software that they have to download, deploy, and then access their tests, through there. But for you as a faculty, you're going to find your the lockdown browser through the course menu. And I am recording this, professor, so I know that I see you taking notes, but since it's going to be you and me, I can just send you this link later, and then you can review it if you want to.
Yeah, that'd be helpful too. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so, so you are going to access it through the Respondus Lockdown browser, which is on your course tools. Now, very quick, right before we jump into that, to the settings of the Lockdown browser, I created, or as you can see here, there is an exam content area, sort of similar to what you would do in your class. You can have yours, within assessments or your content, etc. I just did it this way to make it more clear. So there's an exam area, and Respondus doesn't do anything, to your tests. Your tests are still Blackboard tests. All that Respondus is doing is how to allow students to access those tests, right? So if you've created tests, they're already in Blackboard. Respondus hasn't done anything. You don't have to recreate the tests, import the tests, nothing. The tests are still in your page. And so as you can see, I'm going to go over to assessment, test, and there are two tests here, right? And I'll show you why. So I'm just going to pick the first one. I just named it, taking a test with Respondus Lockdown browser. Have you deployed tests through Blackboard before?
I have, yes.
Okay. A couple of things that I would want you to be sort of aware now that we're going to be using Respondus Lockdown browser is this. One, leave the open test in new window as a no. For obvious reasons, Respondus Lockdown browser is going to lock your computer, which means that student's computer, which means that they're not going to be able to open a new window. They're not going to be able to open a new tab, right? They cannot do this. They cannot navigate outside of Blackboard. And so if you have the test opening in a new window, when the students click on it, it's going to like not show. And they're going to click on it and nothing is going to show up. And so they're going to email you, call you, or something frantically saying, I'm clicking on the test, I'm trying to take it, nothing is showing up. And it's because it's blocking that window, right, for coming up, right? And in some instances, they will get a notice that says, Respondus Lockdown browser does not allow you to open a new window. And so students will be like, oh, okay, this probably means that the professor put it as a, And students are not going to be thinking like that, but again, you know, this is for you
Sure.
to know. If they send it to you and they say, Professor, I clicked on it and nothing shows, just to remember, we got to make sure that we put it as do not open it in a new window.
So whatever I want them to see has to be directed to one browser.
Correct.
Like
And I'll show you
we can't open new windows, can't open new tabs.
nothing.
Okay.
You cannot even do, you know, task manager with keyboards. You cannot do shortcuts to open anything. You cannot go, you know, to your Windows and then find something and then open it. Nothing. It absolutely just blocks, which is uh, pretty much as close as testing center experience.
Right.
You know, and since we're talking about testing centers, Respondus does say that the LockDown browser is meant to be deployed within a Proctor environment, right? Because right now, if you're not going to use the webcam for, you know, monitor to record the students' behaviors during the test, I can just have my phone, right, or an extra tablet or the book, and then I can just be looking at the, you know, the answers here or searching on my phone while taking the test, right? And so that's where the monitor comes in. If you are not able, which at this case we're unable because the university is closed, to have the students come into a testing lab, you know, to take the test using the LockDown browser, you know, now you know, we have the monitor option, which is okay, record yourself at home doing it, and we'll spend some time on that so that, you know, you can see sort of the benefits and the challenges, you know, that brings.
Okay.
The next thing is, and I just say it regardless of which webinar I am, what I'm doing is, it's very easy for faculty with everything that's going on to forget that manually the test is not available to students. We're thinking, I'm creating my course, this test is going to be, you know, due midway through April, I'm not going to make it available now. And a lot of faculty would just leave this as no. And when the time comes, they forget to come in and make the test available. And then, of course, you get all of these, Blackboard is not working or Respondus is not working. And so make the test available to students, but control when the test is deployed. So the best way is make the available to students as in yes, but then say, but make it available on this date at this time and on this day until this date and that time. Reason is that if you leave it as a no, don't make it available to students. When the time comes, student is going to go through the process, is going to click on Respondus, they're going to go to the Blackboard course and no test is going to be. And so of course, the first thing they're going to say is Blackboard is not working or Respondus is not working or there's something wrong with the computer, etc. So put it as in yes, and then you control what the students see it. Okay. The next thing, and again, all of these are test options that you've probably used or you're familiar with. The reason why I'm going through them is because how they affect the behavior of Respondus LockDown browser. Respondus LockDown browser does allow students to retake tests. So if you have it as, let's say, multiple attempts, and then you click on 2 attempts, right? Like you're going to allow students to have 2 attempts. Respondus will allow them to do this. However, Respondus LockDown browser and monitor, they work based on sessions, which means that when the student clicks submit for the test and they get the score and how they did, and then they go like, oh my gosh, well, I didn't do too well, I'm gonna take it again, right? Because the professor allowed us to do it twice. And they click on, you know, okay on the test, which they're taken back to the course. They go to the test and click on it. Respondus is going to say, I'm sorry, but you're only allowed 1 session. That means that the student has to close the browser, log out of Blackboard, close the browser, and then relaunch the Blackboard at the browser, relog in into Blackboard and stuff like that. So if you are going to allow students to have multiple attempts, just remind them, you know, within the instructions and say, If you want, you're going to have two attempts, or however attempts you want to. If you are going to use your attempts, you have to close down the browser and then reopen it. That way a new session starts for you. Okay. If you don't, then obviously makes things easier. Just don't click on the multiple attempts. Force completion and timers, they continue to work normally. So even if you, put it for 2 hours, or, a 4-hour test or something like that, and then you put it within the force completion and set timer, there is no problem within Lock Browser. For as long as the student is logged in that session, all of these settings still remain within LockDown Browser. And then the next thing, which possibly is the only headache that you could potentially have, is this password section here. The reason why is, you notice that I'm not putting a password here. Responder says if you are going to provide students with a password, or if by any reason you need to give students a password, create the password on the responders options, not on your test options. The reason why is because you'll see, I'm going to show you when a student tries to cheat on a test, which is when a student tries to get to the test by using a different, Chrome or Safari or something, by not using, the Responders Lockdown browser. Responders has sort of like a fail-safe, thing, and it will automatically generate a password here. And so that's sort of going to be a little bit of an indication to you that a student is not following directions. And so because of that, I'll show you, if you get an email from a student saying, "Professor, there's a password," and you know that you did not give, or that you did not put a password on Responders, you know that either the student was trying to take the test by not using the Responders Lockdown browser, or you can give them the benefit of the doubt and be like, "Oh, I didn't explain it properly, and they just went through the regular browser." But then that creates a randomly generated password here, and then I'll show you how to fix that. Other than that, it's done. So I'm just going to go ahead. I don't have to change anything else, due dates or anything. So I'm going to click on submit. Okay. And so now you see that this particular test is deployed, right? So taking a test with the Responders Lockdown browser, but I'm going to go ahead and upload this one too. I'm not going to change anything to it. I am going to make it available though. This is just so that you can see, Responder says, or they highly recommend that you create a practice test. So this is like a practice test, for students to see, are the systems going to work? Do they have the right equipment? You can give them participation points just for taking it, because you don't want students who have never used Responders Lockdown browser to all of a sudden start to come. They have only a few hours to complete it. They're stressed out. They click on it. The computer doesn't work. They start to freak out and stuff like that. So by having a practice test, it allows the students to sort of become familiar with the process of what it is. It allows the student to be able to test their system requirements with regards to the browser, and it allows students to sort of contact you and be like, give you those sort of options about like, I don't have a really working computer, I have a Chromebook, what do I do? Or I have the iPad, what do I do? Things like that, right? And then you'll have your quiz one. So you see that I have those two quizzes there. Now we're going to go into the Responders Lockdown browser. And in every course and every time that you come and you click on Responders Lockdown browser, you're going to get this dashboard. This is a very quick sort of overview, sort of like a product overview video. And then there are a couple of video tutorials. We are going into in depth in Lockdown browser. These are just sort of like, oh, I forgot what Marisa told me. Let me see if I can, watch this video. This student overview video is for students, and it's a very simple sort of like, look, this is what it is. This is what you need to do, how you need to do it, this is how it works, etc. Right? And so that video is there, which you can also watch. And then it shows you how to prepare the test. So this has to do with those test options that we just went through, and then how to deploy the test, which is everything that we're doing right now.
Okay.
The next thing is sort of like an important little something that the responders did, and that is, you see this video right here, the student overview. This is the link to that video. And this is the link to the actual browser to download. So when a student clicks on this link, it takes them here. Okay. Now, this recognized that I have a Windows computer. Right? If I needed the Mac version, I can switch it there. Students don't have to do this because of it already recognizes which system they're using. But the important part here is responders created this sort of template for the faculty for you to just kind of like copy paste it and then send it to the students. Sort of like, hey, we're going to be using LockDown browser, right? Here's the information. It tells them what it is. You can then change this sort of in red, right? But they did that. If you're going to use the webcam, then they already have a message already drafted for you. Notice that this number does not change, and that's because this is the unique identifier that Respondus has given Cal State San Bernardino for this particular browser. You cannot tell your students, just go to Google Respondus LockDown browser, and then just download the browser. It doesn't work like that. If a student does that, they're going to be calling you and they're going to be sending you screenshots saying, look, I have LockDown browser, but it doesn't recognize my institution. I cannot log in, etc. And that's because they did not use this particular link, which is to the authorized Cal State San Bernardino, Respondus licensed software. And then the next thing, because it is going to be with the webcam, then they added in this message some extra information with regards to with your Wi-Fi location, to do a systems check and everything. So if you're just doing the browser, click here and then copy that information. If you're doing the browser and the webcam, then you click on that one and then it tells you. And then the practice quiz is just what I told you, which is just create a very quick 1 or 2 questions just so that students know what to do. All of these resources are available to you. And you can also find all of these in the knowledge base for Respondus, but I am the Respondus LockDown browser sort of representative on campus, which means that you can always just send me an email and ask me directly anything that you wanna know. If you're tired of doing all of this and you've seen the videos, you've sent your students this, what you can then do is click where it says don't show this page again, right here at the bottom, right? Which means that next time that you come through your LockDown browser, you're not gonna see this and it's gonna take you straight into the LockDown browser. Okay, so now this is sort of your dashboard. This is where you see all of your tests, right? So all of these tests are the deployed tests. You can have more tests under your test surveys and pools, right? Or you can be working on tests in your test sessions. But until a test is deployed within the course, they are not going to show here. Now, the reason why I brought this too is so that, so that we can see, here's that first test, taking a test with this, says LockDown browser, it's not required, Respondus monitor, it's not required. You could have several tests in which you can say, for week 1, I'm going to just require the browser, but for the midterm, for example, I'm going to require the browser and the monitor. And you can do that, right? You can say, Or you can just say, you know what, take this practice quiz. It's not going to require anything, which means that the student can still come here, you know, to their exams, click here, and they're still going to take their test. That'll be no problem, right? If you're not requiring them to do the Respondus Lockdown browser. So on the first one, the first things that you're going to see are these settings. Right? I'm going to click on them, and the first options that you get is yes, require the Respondus Lockdown browser. And now you notice, let me just move this little thing here. So now you notice that within the Lockdown browser, there is this password to access the exam, right? So this is what I was mentioning earlier. If by any reason you do have to tell your students or a particular student, you know, if they don't have the computer capabilities or they don't have an iPad and etc., and you're going to send them to take their tests somewhere, what Respondus says is create the password here, but then give it to the proctor, to the person that is going to proctor the exam. Otherwise, if you give the student a password, that student can give it to everybody else in the class, and they're all going to be able to access, you know, from their home without any of these different things. And that's why they put it as optional, okay? And so I'm going to just simply say, okay, you know, and this is just to show you about the Lockdown browser. We're not going to go into this one yet. I'm going to click on the advanced settings, and the two things that you are probably want to know are if a student tells you, Professor, I do have an iPad, right? Can I take it in iPad? You have to click on allow students to take this exam with the iPad. Otherwise, you're going to get this message. Well, not you, the student is going to get this message, right? So even if you told the student, yes, go ahead and take it, you can take it in the iPad, but you do not click on the advanced settings to allow students, then they're going to get that message, okay? Also, if that student, or if a student is going to take the, use their iPad, there are a couple of things. One is in the iPad, they need to have guided access, needs to be disabled. That's, you know, like all of the gestures that we do with our hands, the pinching in, pinching out, you know, the swiping to the left, swiping to the right. The reason why I'm telling you this is because if a student is using someone else's iPad and they say, hey, can I just borrow your iPad to take a test? But the student does not have access to the administrative, sort of the setting panels to disable guided access, because all iPad comes with the basic guided access already you know, enabled, right? That's how you're able to double tap, and you know, that's why you're able to like use 2 fingers for your notifications. All of that gets disabled in the iPad. The iPad just becomes this one screen in which they cannot do anything with their fingers because everything else is disabled. So if they're going to use their iPad, they need to, one, allow single app. I was going to show this, but single app functionality. Let me see. I'll crop it and then I'll increase the size so that you can see what it shows. Yeah, so they're going to get this message. If they say, when the LockDown browser says, hey, please disable, you know, this, and they say cancel, then it says, well, you're not going to be able to use it because you're not authorizing Respondus to lock your iPad, right? And then again, if the instructor hasn't done it. And so you have those 3 things. One is turn off your guided access, allowed single app, and for you, allowed that the students can actually take their test using the iPad. and that's right here. That takes me to the question about, well, what if the students do need to go somewhere, you know, like a particular website or something like that for information. Responders allows you to do that. However, they have to be specific. So if I were to say here, for example, I want the students to go to the cdc.com. Responders is not going to recognize that, right? Because if I type here cdc.com, it's going to say, what is that, right? So if I, you know, to tell it exactly what it is, when I click on that, it's actually cdc.gov. And when I copy that and I put it in responders, it actually copies the full address. See that? Which means that if within the CDC, you know, they went here because this page is not here, the students are not going to be able to see it or access it. Okay. And also, because you are doing statistics, you can actually enable the calculator on their toolbar, right? And they have, of course, the standard calculator and the scientific calculator. So you can actually just say, you know what, yes, while they're taking their test, they have access to their calculator inside the test. This is inside the window of the test, not like the calculator that you can access here, you know, as a program. Once we got that, I'm just going to remove this this one right here. I'm going to go and save and close. And now you'll notice that the test was originally called taking a test with Responders LockDown Browser. That was my name. But now it has Responders LockDown Browser, right? Like it adds this. It's required. For the browser, the monitor is not required, right? Once you do that, you'll notice that in the exam, it also added that requires Responders LockDown Browser. Okay. So now, here's that little fail-safe for the students. I'm going to enter student preview. So I'm the student, you know, this is how the course looks. I'm gonna go to exam, right? I see the 2 different quizzes that I have to take. And I'm trying to either not follow directions, or I'm going to try to take the test without using Responders LockDown Browser. So I'm gonna click on that test. And then I'm gonna say, oh, awesome. Like, look, the professor didn't actually activate it. I'm gonna go begin, and it says, what? What do you mean I have to, you know, enter a password? So here is where the student is going to take a screenshot of this, and it's going to tell you, hey, professor, I'm trying to take your test, you know, with Responders, but he's asking me for a password. And you're like, I did not give any passwords. What are you talking about, right? So this is what happens. I'm gonna exit preview. I'm gonna come to the exam. I'm gonna go to the test options. And now look at this. This is the randomly generated password that you know, Responders put on your test. This is kind of like saying Responders is already a lock on your door. And this is because Responders noticed that somebody was trying to access through the, you know, patio door. And so Responders was like, well, no, let's put a safety here. You know, somebody's trying to access this without the right, you know. And so of course you're gonna be like, I didn't put a password. What do you mean? What do you mean a password? And then, you know, the first thing that you're going to also do, right, if you don't remember this little trick, is that you're gonna go to the Responders, right? You're gonna come to the settings, and then you're going to say there is no password, right? Like in your mind, you're thinking, am I going crazy, or what is this student trying to do? And that's because the student either one or two things, right? Didn't follow directions and use their own browser to go to Blackboard to take the test, or purposely wanted to avoid using Respondus LockDown browser and use the regular browser, to go to the test and doing that. Now, can you fix this? Yes, you wouldn't put a password here. You come to the exam, right? Edit test options. I'm going to remove the test, right? Respondus Blackboard is saying, okay, you do know that you're sort of leaving the door unlocked. And then you're going to click on submit, and now you're thinking it's done, right? And then you tell the student, okay, sorry, my mistake, go ahead and take it. Well, now that you remove that password, the student can now come and take the test without Respondus LockDown browser. Right?
So, and I don't want to do that though. So, right. So like, so the two things are either they didn't follow directions, or two, they're intentionally trying to get around it. Well, I'm just having to go back and say, no, something's not right. You got to go and check your instructions again on how to use Respondus LockDown browser, because
exactly.
I mean,
because that student is trying to do something that, and that's why the instructions are so specific, which is you have to download the browser, launch the browser, log into my Coyote, go to my course, find the test, right? If they're doing that, no problem. But so what happens with this particular student? So you have 20 students in your class. The first 9 students did the right thing, logged in, they're taking the test. Student number 10, right, is trying to do this sort of things, right? Now, Respondus told Blackboard, dude, somebody's trying to get into the house through the wrong path. So just, I'm going to protect you, right? The 9 students that are in the test, nothing happens to them. They're already in. They went into Respondus. It's not going to affect them. But student 11 through 20 are now going to be texting you or emailing you saying something's wrong and there's a password. So that one student that came in, like halfway through, your class, messed it up for everybody after him or her. So again, the students that are already taking the exam, because they went through the right lockdown browser, they're already in, taking the exam, they're not affected. But then the student who tried to, come in and go through the wrong path, right, to get rid of, for whatever reason, right? Now, all of the students that are coming after him are having that problem, even if they're using the right responders, because now there is that password in Blackboard that is blocking them from entering that you don't know about, right? Now there is that password that is randomly generated in the test options that you're thinking, there is no password. What are they talking about, right? So again, it's one of those things that is why with the lockdown browser, Respondus says this needs to be proctor. There has to be a physical individual watching them being like, what are you doing? Or someone that can go to that student's computer and tell everybody, hold on, there's an issue here, and then try to fix it for them. Because if there was an issue, if the student was coming in to do this with the monitor, nothing will launch, right? It's still going to create that problem though of this, because this is the initial access to the test. Right? So you notice that I removed the password, right? Now you're coming to double check to see, maybe make sure that things are okay. And now there is this little funky thing, error, fix it. As an instructor, you're thinking, oh, something's wrong. I'm going to fix this. And then you're going to click on this fix. Guess what the fix is going to do? It's going to put the password back. Okay. Because what this is like somebody calling you and saying, yes, hello, professor, we're from ADT company, and we just noticed that you left that door unlocked. What do you want to do? If you go like, oh, I'm sorry, fix it, they'll be like, yes, sir, we're going to put the alarm back on that door. So then the password gets put back, right? But if you go like, oh, no, I know what I did, I'll fix it. Instead of clicking on this fixing and putting that password back in, you can then just come to settings, don't required, wait to about 5 seconds, click save, get back, require it, everything is still set up. See, nothing else has changed. We're just sort of resetting that password in the back. Save and close. So now this is fixed, and now there is no password in the test options here. Unless that student tries to do it again. You know, at that point, we would send the student, you know, you'll tell the student, you know, contact Mauricio and send him some screenshots of what you are seeing. So that's how, you know, for the lockdown browser, you know, sort of, you know, the settings. Now we're getting into the monitor. The monitor is the webcam, right? So I'm going to click on that lockdown, you know, responders monitor is going to tell me, okay, yes, I understand this. And then I have all of these options here selected. By default, the webcam check and the facial detection check are graded out because you cannot change those. There's no point of saying required a webcam, but then come here and uncheck it and say, never mind, don't do it, right? So those you cannot change. Additional instructions, actually, this is a text that you can tell your students, listen, before you start this test, make sure that you do X, Y, and Z, right? If this happens, do this, and you can modify this test if you want, and this is how it will look to the students, right? So when they launch the lockdown browser, it looks very similar to this, with the exception that they're going to have a tab here, right, for Blackboard. These are the additional instructions. Here's where you're able to tell them, you know, do this, do that, don't do this, etc. If you leave all of these things checked the way that they are, right, then the student is going to have to go through each of these steps, right, to go through it. If you say, you know what, I'm not going to give them those, but I am going to require them to do student photo. Student photo, they're going to click, right? Okay. And right now, it's just giving me an issue because of, I'm in Zoom. Sorry, because I'm in Zoom. And so it's saying, well, you're already using the camera, you cannot reuse it. Otherwise, I'll be able to take a picture of myself here. The ID will be the same thing. I click on it and then I'll be able to show my ID, right? I'll put it in front of the camera. Environment check. It's actually, I take the camera and then I do this, right? And then I record everything on my desktop and all of that gets recorded. And that's to show, you know, within the, that's to show in the recording of the video that there wasn't anything here. And then the facial detection check. I'm gonna stop my camera, and then the facial detection check works like this. So this is now going to be the area that respondents is going to think this is me. If I do this, and it's going to be recording, it knows that I moved out of the frame, right? If I'm looking underneath, so it is until it recognizes that I am in that frame that says it's good. And all of these things are going to be flagged. And I'll show you what flagging means. Like if I actually went and did like, what? Right? And I came out of that frame, then responders is going to know that. Since I have my camera off, so this is how it works. There's the student photo, take the picture, and there it is, right? Then the student ID, and I'll put my, you know, picture there and say, okay, here's my picture. All of these gets recorded, right? And then the environment check as I did. And then leave this as your facial detection options. Do not unclick this. These are just simply telling you, hey, when the student, you know, when something is going on with this, right? there's going to be a red square around on the student's screen saying, hey, your face is not in the frame. Please fix that. Okay, there. Continue, right? So I'm going to click on save and close. And now you'll notice that we have both the Respondus LockDown browser is required and the monitor is required. Right? Still, they can still take this first quiz without anything required, but you can actually choose which tests you're going to have, you know, require the LockDown browser or required, you know, the monitor. Once you create those, or once those are created, you notice that now there's some extra settings. Your exam statistics is very dry, straightforward. The longest test took this long, the shortest test took this long, the average test duration was this long, the highest score, the lowest score, the medium score sort of thing, right? But then you have, oh, sorry, let me show you. Oops. But then you have your class results. And here is where that monitor component of recording, it's very useful. You'll see how many students you have in the class, how many have completed it, how many are in high priority, medium, or low. Obviously, I just made this test available, right? And so there's nothing because these are fake students. But when you have results, this is how priority is going to be determined, right? So you're going to get a report like this. So this page is going to look like this for you. And then you'll notice if you have 50 students, 10 students, regardless, there's going to be a review priority in which you can actually just come here and put the ones that are going to be in high priority. So it tells you 9 people completed, 1 is still taking it, 1 has not taken it. Out of those, 2 are high, 2 are medium, and the rest of them, right? So you don't have to check the video for every single student, right? Especially if a test is an hour and you have 50 students, you're not going to sit there and watch 50 hours of students for one video, right? You're only going to watch those 2 students and you don't have to watch their whole video, right? It's just saying, hey, there are a couple of flags, there are a couple of things that happen that we think you may want to, you know, to check. And that's how it looks. So when I'm going to say, okay, this Joe Coyote, you know, I'm going to click there on that plus sign, this is what opens up. So now you have, here's Jane. She has high priority. She had 5 flags, total flag time. So out of the whole time, out of the 33 minutes of her test, 12 minutes, she was in the red, right? And 65% of the time, her face, only 65% of the time, her face was recognized. That means that 35% of the time it wasn't. Right? So that's pretty high. So then we get to where it is. It's going to give you a timeline, right? So it can show you exactly where the flags are. Then it's going to tell you where those flags occurred. So the first one happened at minute 104, multiple persons in frame. So 104, here it is. So now you can see that when she was taking the test, you know, another person, right, came into the frame. And then it's going to tell you around 210, is going to say, look, there was somebody else in here, right? There's a completely different person because of that face recognition, right? Remember, it took the student photo, it took the student ID, right? And so it recognizes that within this frame, anybody outside of this frame, it's not the person that is supposed to be here. Then you continue, right? You notice that you would be able to click on this scroll bar and then just scroll it. It means like everything was fine during this time, right? These lines right here indicate randomized sort of like shots, you know, just picture shots. But then there's long red here. And you can tell based on this red big line that something happened between 5 minutes and your 7 minutes. So for 2.5 minutes, she looked away. She might have stepped out. You know, the kid came in. So all of these is being recorded. Now for this particular student, you see that there's also view notes, right? So when you have the report, you can actually, as a faculty, you can create notes, right? You're going to click on view notes, and then a little pop-up is going to come up. And then in that pop-up, it's going to say, and hold on, I think I have, I forgot where I put it. I was going to give you a little quick note, visual. Here you can click on view notes, and then you can type, oh, this student told me that, you know, her daughter was sick, you know, she couldn't go to school, and she was going to have to take the test from home. So I know that her daughter is there, and you can just kind of like put a reminder there, like, oh yeah, you know, if the student send you an email saying, Professor, you know, I'm a single mom and, you know, I'm going to be alone because my daughter, you can actually notice that, yeah, there is really nothing here for you to feel like this student was trying to cheat, right? There have been cases in the past where faculty have been concerned with regards to like if the person sneezes or the person coughs or they cover their mouth and everything. This face recognition is not like face authentication on your phone, that it will recognize, you know, if you shaved, or recognize if you like have glasses or not have glasses. It's a little bit more generic. As you can see here on these different time stamps, like at 4:16, there's definitely not a person there, right? So it recognizes that. But at 5:20, it didn't really flag it because it recognizes that the person is having like a natural sort of movement. But and the reason why it takes those screenshots of the video is to let you know and say, hey, the software thinks that the person shouldn't be looking anywhere, but you can determine, is this, you know, sort of like, and the good thing is that you can click on that. Like if I click on that 5:20, it'll play the video like 10 seconds before and 10 seconds after, so that you can, and because it's a webcam that's got audio, you can actually hear probably the student saying, or like the kid saying, Mom, look at my drawing. And she just turned and go like, oh, that's pretty, sweetie. And then came back. And then you'll be like, oh, she's not cheating. I mean, you know, sort of this. However, this goes into, you know, that sort of student privacy with regards to, well, what if a student lives with an elderly person, you know, and they're taking care of that elderly person during the time that they're test, when you're requiring, you know, to do their environment check, they may be hesitant to take their camera and move it around to show their parent, you know, in there, or they may be at a work, you know, they may be at their office, you know, if this is a nurse that is, you know, the night shift, and this is the only time where she's going to be able to take the test, she's not going to want to record the environment of her floor, you know, with patients and stuff like that. It's happened where it could be a student, you know, that has a roommate and they don't really have any space. And so the student is going to go into their bathroom, for example, and put their laptop on their toilet and take it. And they may feel uncomfortable to be like, well, I'm in the restroom, I'm sorry, you know, so you may want to consider, there's some things in which not we as an ATI, but we sort of tell the faculty to give you the benefit of the doubt, to sort of be conscious that a student could potentially have a legitimate reason for not using the webcam. And it will be up to you, of course, to sort of determine, yeah, you're right, don't worry about it. I mean, if you're a correctional officer and this is the only time that you're going to be able to take it, and your office will show inmates or something like that, yeah, no, I don't want you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they may have a legitimate reason. But again, this will be like up to you as a faculty, to say, well, what is your reason? Oh, I live with my, little brother, and, the room it's not very clean. No, it's okay. I've had brothers, so show me the room.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and I mean, that's it. This is how Respondus Lockdown browser works, both the browser and the monitor. Again, students need to go to that particular link that you have to download it. Students have a video about what Lockdown browser is. The students can go to our support page. When they go to Cal State, support.csusb, software, student software, and then click on their Lockdown browser to download. Mm-hmm. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah, I got a couple. And maybe just from your experience working with this too, and maybe from working with other faculty as well. So a couple of things that I was wondering, what happens if, let's say a student's in the middle of an exam and their connection cuts out, so they get disconnected. In that kind of scenario, what have faculty done in the past, or what kind of things have you experienced to help fix some of those issues?
Yeah, and so a couple of things. One is within the exam, if the student has a legitimate option, a legitimate reason, right? And you can check sort of, you go to the grade center and then you look at that person's test attempt. And then when you're looking at the attempt of the test, you actually see that 20 minutes into it, the person was in question 17, and then the rest of them says none given. That usually shows, wait a minute, this person also within, have you ever looked at the test attempts in Blackboard?
I haven't. No, I didn't know that. So where did you go for that?
Awesome. So let me show you. If we had a test, if we had an actual result here, you would be able to, let me go to, maybe I can take it to one of my classes. I can't show you student stuff. It's going to show within here, which says the current grade, is going to show you when the student started, what time the student started, how long the student spent per question. Yeah, I need.
How did you get to that screen?
Oh, it's just the grade center.
Oh, grade center. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So.
So grade center, and then how did you find that individual's? I guess you just on that drop down menu, it gives you information on that.
Let me take it to so this is one of my classes from fall. So I'm just gonna go to the test. Oh, I have everything hidden because grades were already done. And let me show you one of the tests. Let's see from my final. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this particular student. And so now this is what you see. I'm going to go to attempt. And and then it gives you all of this. So this particular student, it took this student 1 hour, 51 minutes out of the 2 hours given. The student started at 12:02, finished at 1:53. And then when I go to access log, it shows me student started saved this question, right? Took this question 33. So if you get to the, somewhere around here where it says like stops, right? At this particular, like save question 23, and then you don't see anything else. And by the way, the reason why you see these numbers is because they're randomized. And so this student, this question was question 9, right?
Oh.
This was question 89 out of the pool. That's why those questions are, right? But in their test, this will be question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the student. It's just that it's showing me that from the pool is question 56. So if all of a sudden I see that in the access log, it says time elapsed 13 minutes, and I go 13 minutes, this is a 2-hour test. What's going on? And then I go and I click on the access log, and then it shows me, oh yeah, this person only took, 13 questions. There's nothing else, because all of these will be empty, right? Or you see all of these, if the student got locked out of question 6 and on, all of these will be given answer, none given, none given, none given, none given. And then I'll know, okay, something happened to this student, right? So at that point, what I will do is I'll come to that test, edit the test options. I scroll halfway through. Yeah, there's that password thing that we don't like, right? And then I'm going to add the student as an exception. So I find a student, and then I said, I am going to give that student an extra attempt, right? So I'm going to put 2 attempts. And the reason why I put 2 attempts is because the one that they got locked out was already their first attempt. And so they're going to be using their second attempt.
Does that mean they have to start all over?
Yes. Reason why is because both Blackboard and responders wouldn't want the student to look at the whole test, not answer anything, but just look at the questions, right? And then ask the professor for a second attempt while he or she is looking for the answers, and then come back and then, do better. So this is something that you would do after you've looked at, that sort of test results, and notice that, like, wait a minute, this person was here for 2 hours. They didn't save any questions, right? They were probably just taking notes or doing something, because it'll tell you, right? Just like it did in this one. It'll tell you that the student was there for this long, right? The 1 hour, 1 hour, 51 minutes and 2 hours. So you'll be like, wait a minute. The student didn't answer anything. This is a completely empty test, and yet he was there for 2 hours, right? So once you've done that sort of exploratory thing, you can say, bless you.
Thank you.
Then you can actually say, fine, I'm going to give him, a second attempt. And here is where now, test taking techniques and best practices come in, which is like, that's why it would be recommended to have like a pool of questions. That way, when the student takes the test again, they'll have different options. If you have your forced completion, right, then definitely the student is not going to be able to continue the test. Because for forced completion is the moment you start, you have to finish the test. So if there is an issue that it locked the student out, right, when they go for the second attempt, then they're going to start new.
Wait, so I have to leave forced completion unchecked, right?
Yeah, it would be recommended since we're already using Blackboard LockDown browser.
Okay. So if I had that checked, they wouldn't be able to start even if I made the exception for them?
No, they would, you would definitely have to make the exception, and they wouldn't be able to continue the test. They will definitely be forced to start a new one.
If I leave forced completion unchecked?
Correct. Not checked.
Oh,
If it's
checked.
unchecked, yeah, if it's unchecked, they may actually have, if it's a randomized, they may actually get the same question already answered that they had already answered. And then they have the option of, change it and stuff like that. So if you are going to use Respondus Lockdown Browser and you want your students to not to have a new test when you're giving them the option, then just put the force completion, and then you will guarantee that the student will get a whole new test.
So I do want to check force completion.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I have a couple of other ones too. So earlier you showed me the practice quiz. I think now it was something like in the resources or something like that. And that practice quiz, is that something that I have to make up? So I make just some practice thing for them where they can play around with the.
Yeah, like this one was 3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this one was 3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is the spring quarter, yes or no?
Okay. So I just make that up, right? It's not like a stock default thing.
Yeah. No, this is, and it can just be 1 question. All you want is for students to be able to click there and then be able to see if it's going to work or not.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep, I got that. And then and you mentioned earlier, so you showed me the screen where we have the students will be able to see it if the test if I deploy the test. So when we say deploy the test, that means like I made the test available.
Deploy the test means 2 things. 1 means bringing it from your test surveys and pools into your test, into your course, and then making it available. It's just availability. So like this test is deployed right now. See, this week 1 quiz is deployed. It's just not available to students.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Bring it into the course. I got you. Now, can I pilot all this as a student? So can I try this all out before I let the students try it out? If I do that, does that mean I have to download Respondus Lockdown Browser on my computer?
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So if you wanted to experience what students experience, then yes, go ahead and download the Respondus. And then you'll be able to do the same thing. It'll take you as though if you were, when you log in through the Respondus, you're going to be like a student like this. Come in here and click in and then taking the test.
And I do that through the student preview mode?
No. Just, no, I'm saying what the experience is going to be when you launch Respondus. It's going to look like this. See this? When you click here, it's going to be a browser. And then it's going to log you in. You're going to go into My Coyote, Blackboard, your course, and then take the test. But I was showing you it will try to mimic this experience as a student.
But I can't do it through that student preview function, huh? No.
Because to do the student preview, like if I come in here and I do a student preview, I am still accessing it through a non-browser.
Yeah.
I mean, a non-lockdown browser.
What if I do that through the lockdown browser?
You're not going to be as an instructor in the lockdown browser. When you log in with your ID, it's going to log you into your Blackboard. It's still going to be your name and stuff, but when you click on it, it's going to assume that you are a student.
Okay.
But you can play around with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure that one out. So, okay. Now, with the monitor, I can't. So while if I plan to have the students all take the exam at the same time, am I able to watch all of them on my screen?
No, because you're not watching them live.
Oh, I'm not
this
watching
is being
them live.
Recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, this is being recorded in the Respondus web servers.
Okay.
And then you're just simply getting this from responders.
Got it. Okay.
See, like this, like webresponders.com monitor review and stuff. Yeah, so when you're clicking on the on your responders lockdown browser report, let's go here. So when you're clicking here in exam results, these videos, the videos that show up here, they're not hosted inside of Blackboard.
Gotcha.
That means that you can watch them the day after. You know, if the test is going to be, you know, test is due Friday, and you know that you're going to take some time on Sunday, you know, to review them, then that's what you do. This is not live. That's the difference between ProctorU and Responders Lockdown Browser. ProctorU has a physical person, just like we are on camera, watching me do it.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, it's not live. So, yep, that means I review it after. Okay, yeah, that gets my other question too.
And you only review the ones that show you high priority.
No, I mean they'll give me results for everybody, but I don't need to review everybody. That's what you're saying, is I can just review
see, like right now, if you look at Helen, Ravi, Linda, right?
They seem fine.
I'm not going to review this.
Right.
They're like solo, right?
Gotcha.
But I may want to review, let's see, I may want to review Devin. Why? Because it only was 10 minutes and yet he got a 93. So I may be like, right? Like I know that Jane is one of my best students and it took her 33 minutes and she got a 71. But Angelina and Devin, they are around the 11-minute and yet they got highest scores. That's interesting. Let me take a look at it.
Gotcha. Right? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's plenty of what I needed so far. You answered several of my questions too. And I think that's a lot to at least get me started. I think what I'm going to do is I have a practice quiz already set up, and I'm going to try this out with our students to see from their side and my side so that everybody is okay with everything. Yeah, that was all really helpful.
Awesome. And you got my contact information. You got, you know, so just, the only thing is, sorry, I haven't, let me send you through the chat the registration for today. And this is just so that if later on, if you've attended a couple of our webinars, you can just send us an email and say, hey, can you guys send me a list of the things that I have attended? And this can go into your FAR and everything. So we would get, you would get a letter from each of them saying on this date you attended this, etc., stuff like that. And if you wanted to make an appointment with me, there is, I'm sending you also my calendar.
Okay.
And so what you can do is, and all of the designers right now have it. So if you wanted, you know, like a 30-minute to talk with me, or, you know, 60 minutes, you know, for something else and stuff like that, then you click here and then it will open a calendar and you'll be able to schedule a time with me, and then we'll meet through Zoom. And that's right here on your chat.
Gotcha. So this Google, the docs.google.com. So I clicked on that, and that's just a form to fill out that I completed one of these workshops.
Yeah, it's just going to take you to that because you could do this ahead of time, or you can just do it right now, which is your name, last name, first name, right? I mean, email, which college and department. And one of the reasons why we are using this is, you know, Sam Sudakar is asking us, so are people coming to your workshops? Which ones are they coming to? From what departments and colleges and stuff like that, just so that we have an idea of, yeah, we've been serving 35% of the faculty from Jack Brown. You know, we've been serving only 10% of the faculty from natural sciences and stuff like that. And so that way we know, okay, then do we need to do other type of workshops for those faculty, or why aren't they coming and things like that. So that's internal data for us, right? So like after today, my boss will probably be like, so Mauricio, you only had one person come compared to like 16 people 3 times last week. Maybe people are not interested in Respondus lockdown browser. So maybe we now don't do this webinar anymore and then we do something
Gotcha.
else. So that's kind of like what
Gotcha.
that data is. Plus
But
when you
and
request it.
yeah. That's what I was going to ask next. So yeah, you have a record of it, so I can always come back and be like, hey, do you have a record of that when I came over to your workshop?
Exactly, and then we'll send you a letter saying, yes, on this date at this time you attended this workshop that was about this, etc.
So
And that's it.
the workshop name for this one is online proctoring with lockdown browser and monitor,
Yes.
right? Okay, I'll do
Yes.
that now. I just submitted it. Great. Are you doing the Blackboard one too next in like 10 minutes?
No, I have 2 faculty back to back next.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this.
My next one is Go React, which is the video feedback
Oh,
on Wednesday.
gotcha. I'm gonna jump into this Blackboard one in about 10 minutes over
Yeah.
here.
All right.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate your help. I mean, that was very beneficial. I've never played with this before, and I've heard good things about it. So, yeah,
Excellent.
I'll make it work. Well,
All right.
thank you so much,
Perfect.
Mauricio. I appreciate your help.
Absolutely, Professor. We'll see you. Have a
We'll see
good
ya.
one. Stay safe.
You too. See ya. Thanks. Bye.